evening, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Read Me Live. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and we have an incredible show for you today. I want you to meet someone who is very special, someone who plays a very important role on my path, someone who told me years ago about certain gifts that I had. And for some reason, mystical, magical things always happen when he is around. Mr. Scott Woehrer. Thank you for joining us, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Sharifa. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. So I know today you're going to be talking about conscious love and awakened masculinity. I just want you, before we get into the business of everything, to just tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I met you years ago when I was publishing a metaphysical magazine called Radiance in Southern California that was at 700 locations, between San Diego and Santa Barbara, every yoga studio, metaphysical store, health food store. And that was quite a journey for 5 years. And like I said, where I met you and got involved with a lot of holistic healers, psychics, business intuitives like you who help business owners see around corners, if you will, with your intuitive abilities. And also just your down-to-earth strategies for them once you got to know them. Anyway, that's just a little plug for you.
Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate that plug. But I remember we went on a tour one day delivering magazines, right. And we left just a string of tears, is what you called it, because the whole time just things just started to come to me, and I just give readings without any cards, without any help. And then we also were at the what was that called?
The Chopra Center or Hay House?
No, it was the it'll come to me, but you asked me to speak at one of the organizations, and I don't know, but mystical, magical things always seem to happen when you're around. So I wanted to introduce everyone to you, and it wasn't a Buddhist temple. It was it
was the ashram in Whittier.
Yes, the ashram in Whittier. That's when I gave a reading, and medical intuitive abilities came through. And so some of the things I'm doing now were things that were happening back then. But when I look back, it's like, okay, Scott was there, Scott was there, Scott was there. So maybe in addition to helping people with conscious love and awaken masculinity, maybe you also somebody who helps other people open to their gifts.
Well, I tell you, yeah, a lot of things clicked between you and I, and we went on some journeys physically and otherwise. And so I tell people, if you want to go on an incredible spiritual journey, start a spiritual magazine. It was quite a journey for me, and the ads paid for it until they didn't, and it was incredible. And one of the things I did was I would make some special deliveries of it to certain special places, and I would bring people with me like you.
Right.
And we did that. We delivered to certain places, and then we'd come in and I'd say, Sharifa here is a psychic. Would you like a reading? And in this office, whatever kind of office it was, generally a holistic healing office or something, and they'd say, okay. And yes, you left people in tears in a good way, right. Because your abilities just penetrated their spirit, their aura so deeply, and you were able to extract things and share things with them that just had them bawling. And that was fun. And I was just a facilitator of that. And I asked you to come with me. There was, I asked you to come with, let's do this for a day. And it was an amazing day. I definitely remember it well.
Right. But I was under the impression that we were just going to be handing out magazines. So what prompted you to even know to do that?
Well, when I started the so I wanted to start the magazine. There's only a couple times in my life this has happened, but I heard a voice.
Oh, wow.
And the voice said, do something spiritual for a living. And I'm like, well, what do? I've written plays, I've directed and produced plays of mine. But I thought, okay, I'll start a spiritual magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found that one was already existing in South Orange County called Radiance. It was only at 70 locations. I took it over, expanded it to 700 locations, and basically used it. And this is why I say you want to have a spiritual journey, start a spiritual magazine, because I used it. I was very creative with it, and I felt Spirit guided me to do these things. And I would, for instance, at the Conscious Life Expo that happens every February at the LAX Hilton, where all the spiritual luminaries from around the world come to gather, and they're on panels and they're giving seminars. And it's just a great place for our tribe. You know, if you're a spiritual person and you love this stuff, that's your tribe, right? So because I was the publisher and editor of this magazine that, of course, I was distributing throughout the place, the Conscious Life Expo, they allowed me to introduce certain speakers like Neil Donald Walsh, Dannion Brinkley, mm-hmm. who was the first person in the 70s to write about near-death experiences. His book was called Saved by the Light. Okay. And then he died 3 more times and wrote about each one. He was hit by lightning, he had a heart attack, and he was one of the first people to bring out the fact that when you die, you get a life review. Mm-hmm. And it's not judgment. It's just somebody, putting their arm around you and just watching how you affected other people in your life, mm-hmm. which I fully believe, and I've heard of other near-death experiencers who have said that this happens. And we kind of saw that in the movie Defending Your Life with Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks, okay. where they kind of watched a movie of their lives and to see, how things went down. And the thing is, it's done with complete compassion. There's no judgment or anything like that. It's like watching your life with your best friend and how you affected other people. And what the purpose of that is, as far as I understand, is to help your soul grow and expand, which is actually the meaning of this life entirely. Why are we here? How did we get here? Why don't I remember what happened to me before? Well, some people do who have had past life regressions, but it's my knowing, not a belief, but a knowing that we collaborated with God and said, in this life, I want to do this. I want to have these kinds of parents, and I want to experience these themes. Now, they could be beautiful themes. They could be painful themes. I always like to tell that story that Neil Donald Walsh tells in his books, the Conversations with God that he wrote. He told a story that he actually pulled out and made it a children's book called The Little Soul. And it's about a soul in heaven that comes before God's court and all the angels and everyone's gathered around. And God says, what can I do for you, little soul? Mm-hmm. And the little soul says, well, I've heard about these incredible things that are happening in this special realm where there's polarity and right and wrong and black and white and up and down and cold and hot. And God said, okay, well, what is it you've heard that you like to experience? And the little soul said, I would love to experience this amazing thing called forgiveness.
Oh, wow. That's important.
And God said, well, I can do that. We can do that. But someone will have to go down with you and smite you so that you may have something to forgive. Mm-hmm. And one soul raised a hand and said, I love you enough. I love you so much, I will go down and smite you. Okay. So that's essentially the story. And it really allows us to forgive forgive others that we've had judgments about, because actually they're just playing a role.
Right.
And they're playing a role whether they've hurt you, me, people we love. And if you understand and believe that there is no death, really.
Mhm.
We never actually die. Um, we're eternal. Our
Right.
souls are eternal. Now, it appears that we die. We have a length of time that there's in this polarity, in this existence, there's something called time.
Right.
Well, in eternity, there's no time. If you're like some people say, we're actually in heaven right now dreaming this life, which I think
Right.
is kind of a beautiful sentiment. Bashar says that. And,
Ooh, I
but
love watching for sure.
yes. And it's, you know, it's just a beautiful thing to go, okay, you're in that happy, blissful state, but when you're there, you can't experience love in the way that we know love to be as humans,
Right.
and or forgiveness like that soul wanted to experience. So we agreed to come here to have the adventure and experience of having our mind erased,
Hmm.
to not remember that we're actually one with God, that we're a part of God,
Hmm.
and to come down here to believe we're separate, and then to make the journey to remember. It's never, you don't have to learn anything. Nobody can teach anything. It's just about remembering. It's about letting go of things that
Hmm.
are in the way of your knowing your true self. And your true self is divine, glorious, beautiful, wonderful. And we've forgotten that, so that we could experience this polarity of good and bad and good and evil and whatnot. So I love to talk about this because it's a good reminder to not get caught up in worldly things.
Right.
Be in the world, but not of it. Don't let current events eat you up. Don't let
Right.
it get you down. And we can get into righteous anger. Well, this is not right. It's like, okay, another perspective on it
Hmm.
is to look through God's eyes, if you can, which is a great exercise to do, and to say, to look with love. And
Right.
what is this person doing? Is this person the person who volunteered to come down and smite the whole country?
Right.
Yeah. I won't mention any names, but everyone is playing a role.
Hmm.
And the only thing, it's funny, George Bush, the first George Bush said, what happens in your house is more important than what happens in the White House.
Right.
And that is so true. Um, it's up to us how we respond to
Hmm.
what happens to us, to what happens in our field. You don't want to react. The reaction is just without thinking, you're egoically
Hmm.
letting your ego react, your programming. Because we came here, we had our mind wiped,
Hmm.
and we forgot who we were. So what was put in its place? Programming.
Right.
Okay. How you were raised, what family you were raised in, which I understand we chose, but you don't have to believe what I believe. But I tell you, it's actually very empowering to think of things in this way, that everything that's in my field,
Hmm.
I put there. I'm responsible for.
Hmm.
Guess what? When I think that way, I am no longer a victim of anything or anybody. Then I'm asking myself, what can I learn from this? What is there for me to learn from this? I put it here for a reason. And by the way, those traumas
Hmm.
that we work on healing, which is wonderful. Um, those traumas are so important, and some even call them treasures. Now you say,
For
what are you talking about? I would, what happened to me as a kid, that's not a treasure. Well, it's like, okay, and I'm not going to tell you anything it's between you and your therapist, or you and you, and, but I'm just sharing what I know for
okay.
myself, let's say. And what I know is anything I've experienced in a sense of trauma taught me so much,
Hmm.
taught me more. They say failure teaches you so much more than success. Well,
Right.
failure is painful,
Yes.
for various reasons. And, um, it's there to teach us. We learn the most from it. And
Hmm.
that's why we're here, to expand our soul, for it to grow. And I'm going to
Hmm.
throw another curveball, if you will, out there. Aliens,
Okay.
who a lot of people mistake for angels. or angels who people mistake for aliens. Okay. Just to throw that out there, you don't have to believe it, that they're one and the same. But, and this is why, people say, well, where's the Bigfoots? Where are the aliens? Are they anywhere? Why aren't they contacting us? Or are they out here? Are we alone? Well, most people know we're not alone. But here's the thing. We can't see them. They don't want us to see them. And here's the thing. There is a law of the universe that they shall not interfere with life. It's interesting because Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, mentions this in Star Trek. The canon of Star Trek is such that the prime directive is that they shall not interfere with a species on a planet that they visit. Well, guess where Gene Roddenberry got that from? He was in a living room in the San Fernando Valley listening to a channeler who was channeling an alien who talked about that. And that's Bashar, who's being channeled by Daryl Anka, who many of us know for decades has been channeling this being or group of beings called Bashar. And he talks about that he is a first contact specialist for us. And he's helping us get ready to meet him. Well, these aliens are watching us with great interest because we're true badasses. We just 8 billion of us decided to come here to party. Okay. There's 8 billion of us on the planet. And so, you and I know people personally that are healers who have gone like, oh, this is the last time I want to incarnate on Earth. I'm so done. I'm so tired. It's like, okay, I get that feeling as a human. When you go into the afterlife and you go through what you go through and you may feel a lot differently, but it's up to you. But they are watching us with great interest because we decided to have our memory wiped to forget who we are, the great, amazing, divine selves that we are, to think that we're just these lowly creatures that are part of original sin or whatever we have been taught to believe, that so that the people around us could feel secure in their insecurities to keep us down. And so it's up to us to get past that, to transcend that and remember who we are. And these aliens are watching us and they're like, wow. And some of them apparently don't even have souls like we do. They're not reborn like we are. That's a whole other subject. But they're watching us with great interest because it is a remarkable thing that we've allowed for ourselves to do, to come down, memory wipe, do the work it takes to get rid of the impediments that we accumulated in childhood that kept us ignorant. Anyway, I've been going on and on, Sharifa. Say something.
Well, I'm letting you have the floor. It's so interesting. And I was listening to you, Scott, and one of the things that I have to say is you have grown. Like, not that you were, but I can just see your growth. I can see your wisdom. I can see your reflection. I can see a whole different side that I just absolutely love. So I think that's wonderful. But you talked about so many different topics, and I want to go back to the beginning. I want to go back to when you were talking about Radiance Magazine, and Radiance Magazine opened up these doors for you, and it allowed you to meet so many different people, so many healers, so many people who've experienced near-death experiences. Now, but when you spoke of these near-death experiences, it almost appeared as if it was a first-hand experience, because you said, I believe, and then you said, no, I know. So how did you come about this personal knowing?
I would say mostly through meditation.
Okay.
I have not died. I mean, I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. You could say I almost died. Yeah. And I've done plant medicine, and that's definitely, ego death, which is just an expression. Ego can't die, but it can definitely take a beating. But no, it's just a knowing. I mean, the thing is, like, for instance, I went to one of these events called Contact in the Desert, and there was a woman up there speaking about the fact that she'd been abducted by aliens over 200 times.
Oh, wow.
And she happened to she was a camera person on Baywatch of all things.
Right.
And the alien crafts would come over the water. She lived near the beach, and she was taken. She remembers the experiences. And in fact, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, he did the artwork for her book. So there's that connection. And you're listening. I'm like, do I believe this? And let me tell you, after an hour of hearing her talk about these different experiences, I allowed myself to believe her. And I said, you know what? We know truth when we hear it.
Right.
And for people who talk about, people who don't know don't accept Jesus or don't read the Bible, they're not going to heaven or whatever. I know it's kind of an old-fashioned view, but I think some people still hold that. And then you think, well, what about all the people that are born on islands and in places that'll never see a Bible, never hear about Jesus?
Right.
Well, we were given the gift of discernment.
Right.
And inside of us, we know truth when we hear it.
Right.
And listen, my truth, your truth, nobody else has to, it's a personal thing. Nobody else has to understand it or put you, pat you on the head and say, you did good. It's not about that. You find your own personal truth,
right.
your own personal Jesus or what have you. And if there's one thing I would say to people, it's like, I have nothing to tell you except listen to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know you say the same thing, Sharifa. It's like, go inside. And so you got two voices inside. You got that ego going, judging about people. Don't love so freely. Don't love so deeply. Remember how you got hurt before when you love somebody? Don't do, so the ego overcorrects. It would have us never leave the house.
Right.
But the fact is, life is about risk. If you're doing it right, there is risk involved. When you meet somebody, when you ask them out on a date, when you ask them to marry you or whatever it is. So I just lost my train of thought.
well, I'll jump in there.
Sure.
You said that you personally haven't had a near-death experience,
no.
But you also said you're a 3-time cancer survivor, which I would consider near-death experience, because what you're doing is you're experiencing what that possibility could be. And so has to make you face at some point even some idea of your own mortality, right? And that changes.
It does, but I'll tell you and it did, but it's interesting because mushrooms, magic mushrooms, the ones you trip on. Now, if you're with some people, not the ones that do it recreationally and just want to get high, but the ones who do it ceremonially, when you set and setting, you want to have the right mindset and you want to have the right setting, the right people around you. When you do it right like that, you actually will journey, you will learn things. One thing I learned when taking mushrooms is whatever you're avoiding, comes right front and center. And one of the reasons they legalized it in Oregon was because it has the ability to take away the fear of death.
Okay.
Which I felt it leave me. I didn't even know I had it, but it left me. And I felt, of course, more connected to everything. But people in Oregon made it legal because there were people in hospice who fear death. And I can think of few things more horrible than being on the edge of death and fearing what's coming. But they took mushrooms and the fear of death left them and they were not suffering anymore. So I love that. And so that gave me, in the cancer, gave me a different understanding of death. Latinos have the Dia de las Muertas. The Europeans understand death better as a part of life. And but Americans as a whole don't do so well with death. Everyone thinks they're going to live forever and they're going to win the lottery.
Right.
That's like right below the surface, everyone thinks that. And, it's the odds are you are going to die and you're not going to win the lottery. But so I became friends with Daniel Brinkley, who has sat bedside, the one who had all those near-death experiences. And he created a program for hospice called, the Light Brigade, the Twilight Brigade. Okay. And which you kind of get the meaning of. And it's how to meet the needs of the dying, which is why now I volunteer in hospice, because I have a special relationship with death. I know I can bring the calm. I know what's next is beautiful and amazing. And not just because thousands of near-death experiencers have expressed how much euphoria they felt until they were yanked back because it wasn't their time to go.
Right.
I know it from the psilocybin, but I also just have the knowing deep in me. I know what's next is beautiful. So, and I'm trying to get Danyan to write a book about it, because when I talk to him on the phone, I'm like, we got to be writing this down to help people. So that's one of my projects, is because he's a busy guy. The VA, the Veterans Administration, at half of their facilities have taken on his program.
Okay.
They have adopted his program that he created, and he's been at the bedside of hundreds of. He's been with hundreds of people who are taking their last breath. Mm-hmm. So and the fact that he died himself 4 or 5 times and came back, he knows death. So I was very inspired by him, and I learned a lot from him. And he talks about how valuable it is to me and to him to be at someone's side when they are at death's door. It is extremely valuable. It just fills your heart that you are allowed to be present for this incredible transition of this human soul. Mm-hmm. And so I urge people, you will be very much rewarded to volunteer. Just go to your local hospices, call them up, find out if they're accepting volunteers. They should train you. I got trained, did some PowerPoint presentations and whatnot. And I know how to meet the needs of the dying. And it's my honor. It really is my honor to do that. We just don't have that in this country right now about volunteer work, how rewarding it is to put your heart into something with no expectation of a return, of a reward. And it's the doing of it that is the reward. And that's this, we know that about giving, right? We just forget it. It's a dog-eat-dog world. It's a world where, in fact, it's almost encouraged that you can cheat people, and as long as you get away with it, heck, you'll probably be pardoned, or you just won't be punished or have consequences or be accountable for what you did. This is the world we live in, but people are forgetting their humanity. They're forgetting what it is to be a human, or they just skip over it. They don't wake up in the morning with gratitude to be alive another day, taking breath into your body. To love another human being and to be loved back. These basic things that money can't buy is so rewarding. Volunteer work. I want to start a movement of volunteering, and Lord knows there's a lot of need in this country, and there's people who have and there's people who don't have. And so I urge anybody listening to this or watching this that I think there's a website, I think, called Volunteer Something, where you go on Volunteer Match, I believe, and they'll match you with a volunteer opportunity, whether it's with animals, people, and sometimes, like the place I work for, volunteer work for a hospice place here in Corona, California, called Care Dimensions, and they're even looking for admin, someone to work in the office and help with the paperwork and whatnot. But just to give, talk about the love that you feel. And again, not that you can be judged in heaven for what you gave or didn't give. It's not about that. But you will see through their eyes how you affected them. And that is for the purpose of growing your soul. Now, I mentioned before, we have 2 voices inside of us. We have the ego, da, 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 da. The one who chirps up when you're meditating in the first few minutes of meditation before you calm it.
Right.
And then there's the quiet, still voice of your soul. It's not talking English or French or Spanish. It's talking in terms of impulses, in terms of nudges. And you feel it all the time when you go, oh, I should have taken a left when I took a right. Or I'm not buying what this salesman is selling. I don't feel right about this. This isn't for me. That's you listening to your intuition. You're already doing it all the time anyway. You might as well do it consciously. Listen to it because it's actually guiding you on your path. And too many people are afraid to walk their path because it doesn't look right. It doesn't look familiar, and it's not supposed to. If the path already looks like a sidewalk or stones, that means it's somebody else's path.
But
Okay.
sometimes I just want to say sometimes it is not always that we don't, some people don't want to walk that path. Is that I had one of the guests on my show, and we had a very interesting conversation. And she
Mm-hmm.
used the expression "sign of your sign," and she was talking. I was like, "Wait a minute, what is a sign of your sign?" She says, "So often we ask God, we ask the universe, we ask Spirit for a sign, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
then a sign appears, and we're like, is that a sign? Was that a sign? Is this what I'm supposed to do? No, I need a sign of your sign." Like we expect. One of my all-time favorite movies is Bruce Almighty, right? I love that movie,
yeah.
and he has these red flashing orange signs that point him in the direction that he needs to go. And so often when we have a path or our path is opening up, we're often unsure as, is that our path or is that what we're supposed to be doing? Like for me, my mom told me 20 years ago to do more readings and go be professional reader. I went on this journey where I met you and met so many other healers and psychics and mediums and channels and so many wonderful people. But I was like, okay, how do I know this is what I'm supposed to do? So I don't think it's always, about being not wanting to take that path, but not always knowing if that is our path.
Well, we mentioned Bashar, and one of the things he talks about that I heartily agree with is your purpose. You know your purpose when you follow your highest excitement.
Mm,
Following your highest excitement is, and it's nobody else telling you what to do. You know what
yeah,
excites you, what makes you passionate. Do that thing. And if it leads you to something else that's a little more exciting to you, do that thing. That was the purpose of it. It brought you to that thing. So
right,
this may not be your final stop, but when you follow your highest excitement, that means you're saying, I trust myself to
right.
know that I can tell myself what I should be doing with this body and with this spirit and with my energy and my love.
Mhm.
And it's always going to involve love. It's always going to involve your heart. The soulful messages from our intuition comes through our heart. The heart's attached to the soul,
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful thing. Now, if some people say, "Well, I love being a musician, but I can't make a living being a musician." It's not about making a living. Yeah, we got to make a living. We got to pay the rent. That's fine. That's a given. However, do what you got to do. If you got to open a music school, if you
Right.
got to give tutoring lessons, if you have to, or play on the sidewalk or play in a small club where only 5 people come. If you're doing it for anything other than just the pure love of it, then you're a little off. You're in the ego, and the ego wants to be stroked, or, well, I got to have a huge audience, or I got to sell my book's got to sell 1 million copies, or I'm nothing or nobody.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
So
But also to even make the statement that I can't earn a living. I truly believe that if it's a desire of our heart, God will make a way because we were all given at least one talent. And I
yes,
think so often we forget that that talent is to sustain us here on earth. We get caught up in this idea of the starving student or the starving artist, and that there's so much, joy and I got to starve to prove that this is what I'm supposed to do. When in fact, just saying that you can't closes a door that maybe you can. Like you said, look for other ways to be able
yeah.
to do with you what you love.
Well, Bashar also talks about not being attached to the outcome.
True.
So do your manifesting, but
Hmm.
anytime you manifest, don't grip it so tightly that it
Hmm.
has to look a certain way. Say this or better, this
Yes.
or better. I want this or better.
Yes.
And again, because if you knew exactly what was coming your way, that's no way to live a life. If you knew everything that was coming, there's no surprise, there's no growth at all.
Right.
But the world, it will, the universe will deliver to you what your soul needs more than it wants,
Right.
right? You'll get what you need, not necessarily what you want. And what you want is usually the ego wanting
Right.
the baser things, money, um, a love to look a certain way. And frequently people fall in love with a person who is not their type,
Right.
that they wanted, wished for, what have you. But the love is there, and you
Yeah.
can't ignore it.
Let's talk about love. You have a new book out.
I wrote a book about conscious relationships called "Good Morning, My Queen."
Okay.
You can find it in the Amazon store and watch and read it on your Kindle on your phone. And it was based on a previous relationship,
Mhm.
and it's mostly a book for men. It's a quick read. It's not long. It's a quick read, and it's helping men see the benefits of devoting all your energy to your mate, to your queen. And man, she'll do whatever you want. You do that. If you can cut off your online distractions, and we all know what those are, there's a few of them. If you can cut those off and devote that energy leaking out to those things to your mate, your life will get better. Your
Mhm.
relationship is better, and she feels wanted, desired, taken care of, provided for. Providing for and being protective means more than just monetarily.
Right.
It's well, you can discuss. You tell us, Sharifa, what do you value in a man in a relationship?
No, I do value those things, provider and protector. But I
Yeah,
agree with you, it's not just a financial thing. A man provides stability, a man provides leadership.
yeah.
There are a lot of aspects that he can provide, but he protects, you know, depending on what you believe. And I believe scripture that a woman should always be under a man's cover. That's one of the things that I tease my father about because I'm unmarried. So I always say, "Hey dad, now I'm under your cover," because he
Uh,
has to be there to protect. My dad keeps trying to give me away and I keep coming right on back. But I find it interesting that one of the things that you said is that you this was a previous relationship. So is this something that you learned as a result of leaving that relationship, or was this something that you learned while you were in the relationship?
I was deep in the relationship, and it was a great conscious relationship with a conscious woman
Mhm.
who you know personally. You've known, and it was incredible. I learned so much. I was not the man who came out of it. I was not that man who entered it,
Okay.
which is true for many of us, right?
Right.
Um, I grew tremendously. Now
I
the
can see
relationship did end, as things do sometimes,
that. Mhm.
and you know, there's no animosity between us. There's no bad blood, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, I learned a heck of a lot. And that's what a conscious relationship is. When you enter a relationship where, like for instance, as I look at a potential, having a new relationship, I say to myself, I know what I'm not going to do. I'm
Mhm.
not going to have wounds
Mhm.
showing, wounds that I want assuaged by somebody else or healed by somebody else, right? Or looking for that person who could do that. No, I healed my wounds on my own
Mhm.
because I want to fill my own cup, not
Mhm.
expect anyone else to fill it, and then give from my overflow.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's like a quote that needs to be. Is that must be in the
I,
book?
yeah, it is, but I'm not the first to say that by any means. I got that from somewhere, but I love that, and filling your own cup, not because we know there's a phrase I saw out there called man keeping,
Mhm.
and some women find themselves in a situation where they're man keeping, meaning they're picking up his laundry, doing his laundry, cooking for him, doing all these things for him where he could be doing when she's busy, she's got her own life, or she's raising the kid, she's spending more time.
Mhm.
So, and that's part of looking out for your queen, if you
Mhm.
will. Um, Definitely sharing the chores, definitely, and doing things without asking, taking care of business. Um, that definitely makes a woman, and this I get from Teal Swan, who's another great spiritual teacher, who says men have almost no concept of how unsafe women feel
Mhm.
just in life, how
Right.
unsafe, how protective they need to be of themselves, of their energy, not just of their energy, but in a grocery store parking lot at night in the dark.
Mhm.
You know, these are things men will never experience probably, and should really get hip to and understand that this is an ongoing constant thing for them. And they want to know that when they're with you, that you've taken care of your business
Mhm.
so that there's no monster that wants to come out of here
Right.
because you've handled it, because you're not going to get so angry that, let alone narcissistic behavior, but just that you've got yourself handled. And if that means going to therapy, go to therapy. Therapy's great. I've done it, several times. It's wonderful. And it's a place, because really, it's a place where you can dump everything, and then the therapist will organize it and give it back to you in a very helpful way. You should not be dumping everything with your partner.
True.
They call it trauma dumping, and that doesn't feel good. And they're not there for that. In fact, men as a group, unfortunately, lean on their women a little too hard.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why I facilitate a men's group that I started in the new place where I'm living now. Just like in the other places I've lived, I always start a men's group, and I just men talking with open heart, being heard, being seen in ways they may not be in their life. I love to be able to provide that space for that. Um, Men frequently, they stop making friends as they get older,
Mhm.
um, and they lean on their mate for everything, whereas their partner has a friend for this, a friend for that, a women's group for this. And for instance, if one of them dies, the men do much poorly than the women do. Women have these solid relationships they can lean on, whereas men, they're like, she was my best friend. But what he
Right.
means was she was his only friend.
Right.
And now he's lost. So,
But they
um,
also say that um, more men than women die alone.
yeah,
Because usually, even if a woman wasn't quote unquote the best person, usually her children will come to visit her and take
sure,
care of mom or
sure.
people around her. Whereas men, maybe when they were younger, they weren't there for their family, they weren't there for their children. Maybe they play with different women, whatever it is, but they do say that more men than women die alone. So,
And the undercurrent, the thing that all these things have in common that we're talking about, whether it's volunteering, is love. And
yes.
I've come to understand that love is not just a feeling,
Mhm.
it's a frequency. And
Right.
it's almost tangible. It's what actually, a lot of people believe it's what the very universe is made of. And
Yes.
if you want an excellent depiction of that, the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey, they actually talk about it there. And they talk about how love is this frequency that you can use to even transport yourself. And he does that. And it's incredible. It goes over most people's heads, I think, but I urge you to watch it and look for it, especially in the second half of the movie when it really comes up. Um, in fact, going back to Bashar again, he talks about you're able to read people's minds when you
Mhm.
have a heart for them. So he doesn't call it telepathy; he calls it telepathy.
Okay.
Okay, empathy yeah, and it really is the unified field that we need. That is there already. We just need to tap into it to heal this world. And
We
and
do.
that's the other thing. I mean, whatever you think of the world, whatever you think of politics, whatever you think of what's happening, um, Martin Luther King said that you can't fight hate with hate. You have to fight hate with love, which
Right.
feels counterintuitive. It doesn't feel right. It's like, what? But the fact is, and I probably have heard this word Ubuntu, which I
Yes.
believe is the word that a certain African tribe, when someone is acting out, they're acting up,
Mhm.
acting out, outside the norms of the tribe. Do they punish them? Do they give them time out? Do they spank them? No, they love them back into the tribe. They literally physically bring them in, hug them, love them, and make them feel heard and seen and felt. And man, we're so far from that now, but that's what we're here for. If we wanted utopia, like a lot of healers are like, I'm so tired of being boring. And it's like we came from a utopia. Okay.
Right.
That's what the blissful state of the other world is. But we came here to experience forgiveness. to learn to forgive, and to heal, the world. And there's plenty of that to go around.
I
we're,
definitely
ne-
agree.
we're almost never going to run out of enough opportunities to bring our heart and our love to heal. And that looks many different ways. Oh, and I remember when we started talking about the idea of talking today, I was thinking, let's talk about a very, an issue that polarizes people, abortion. Okay. Some people believe you can't tell a woman what to do with her body or what's in it. And other people believe that the fetus in the woman's body supersedes all rights of the woman. And I would say this, instead of taking a side, instead of getting involved in the politics of it and this versus the other, us versus them, say, what does a world look like where abortions are never sought after, that abortions are unnecessary? How do we create that world? Now, I don't have all the answers, but I have the right questions. Okay. And I'm not here to give answers to tell people what to do. Nobody likes that, to be told what to do. But to ask that question, it suggests to me, okay, we got to love our daughters a little more. We got to bring them in, bring them closer. How do you do that? There's a lot of ways to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You can figure that. Some people, it's been shown that sex education lowers the rate of abortion.
Yes.
There's a direct connection. But a lot of people say, well, I don't want people teaching my kid to be gay or trans or whatever. I'm not want the government to do that. And it's like, okay, well, sir, then you come on in and teach for a day, okay? And get your neighbors to come in and teach the sex ed that, again, that's just one solution.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is love. I think that's the message that you're bringing, and I think that's what we need to hear, and that's why we're having this conversation right now.
Yes.
Because I spent the last 5 years, literally 5 years, in politics, running from one office to another office. When I ran for Senate, there were 17,000 people who came out to the ballots to vote for me.
Nice.
But I said, after that, I said, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to be in politics? And like we talked about earlier, what brings you joy? What brings you happiness? And one of the things that I really enjoy is the podcast. I've been doing the podcast for years. I love reading for people. And so I've been able to combine it on my path and what I wanted to do. So we wanted to do a reading for you tonight, Scott.
I love it. I just want to say one more thing on it. So just tap into the love that you already have. Let it come out in whatever way it comes out. If it's volunteering, great. If it's hugging your family more often and telling them I love you, because tomorrow is never promised to anybody, right? So say you love them now. Don't wait. Don't hold back. Whatever love looks like to you. And Neil Donald Walsh has said, what would love do now? What would love do now? If we ask that on everything, we'll be on the right track. And if you're all about doing God's work, that puts you in alignment with God. What would love do now? Like, what would Jesus do now? What would love do now? You want to be doing God's work. You want to be an instrument of his peace.
Yes.
That's how. Nobody else can do it for you. You do it yourself. Don't wait for permission. Be a self-starter on that. It's already there.
Scott, at the end, we give you a whole section where you give them you're ending the show.
Go ahead with the reading.
We're not ready to. You probably know the cards better than I do, Scott.
Nah, I want to hear. Go ahead.
You want to hear? Okay.
I do.
So I've been sitting here this entire time shuffling. Shuffling for me is my sign to spirit that I'm getting ready to do a reading. It also allows me to clear the energy from anybody that I read for before. And it allows me to focus my attention and tap into your energy. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do the reading. And the first card is your major theme, the major theme that's running through your life right now. And one thing I definitely see before I even turn over a single card is I know you got a lot of love to give, a lot of love to receive. But your main issue is the Page of Pentacles. The Page of Pentacles. That's the main theme, the main energy that's running through your life right now. And pages are messengers. Pages always bring news And pentacles being money, being the physical manifestation of what you need, or what I would say need, because we talked about wants earlier, and we know that there are physical aspects of what's going on in your life. So that is the Page of Pentacles.
Okay.
The next card that you have is the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords.
All
So the
right.
Five of Swords is about conflicts, it's about petty arguments, it's about disagreements, but it can also be debates. It's just about conversations and talking to other people, different strong viewpoints. But being
Okay.
a minor arcana card, it's not a major life lesson. It's not a major situation that you're going through. It's just sometimes when we have strong viewpoints, even when we deliver those viewpoints with love, everybody may not agree. And I can see that with some of the conversations and topics that you choose. But the next card that you have is the King of Swords. The King of Swords. And kings are either the element within ourselves or someone around us. But swords being ideas, information, intellect. One of the things that I always say about the King of Swords is that the king knows that he knows. He knows what he knows, and he knows that he knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only
Yep.
challenge, and I always use the word challenge. So I see the King of Swords right along with the Five of Swords. So again, this tells me that this is a lot of thought and a lot of ideas. But the challenge for me with the King of Swords is about just really add the heart into it. It reminds me of my dad always says to me, Sharifa, be patient with yourself and others. Be patient with yourself and others, because the King of Swords knows, he has the information. And sometimes it always surprises me. And I don't know why it surprises me. I'm like, why don't they see it? Why don't they get it? It's so easy. It's just love. Like, it's simple, right? But for some reason, you have to remember that not everyone can see it as clearly as you can. Scott, you got it. Like, it. And even just watching your growth, I see like it's crystallized more than it ever has. Because I remember seeing you always giving you a hug. You hugged everybody. You were there for everybody. But now you have more of that hermit energy. Not that we pulled the hermit, but I'm just telling you really are that wise person. Because the next one that you have is the Three of Cups. And the Three of Cups is beautiful for me, because the Three of Cups for me is about going out, outside of yourself. So this Ace of Cups being self-love, Two of Cups being partnership. So the Three of Cups is always more than you. This is those receptions. These are those gatherings. These are when people get together. And again, I kind of, this really symbolizes you to me, because you were always at the heart of the community. You were always at every event. You always were at every gathering. You were always around people, right? So this is not just about that, a date or that relationship. Is about community. I really see that as community for you. And the next card that you have is the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups. Whenever I see the Eight of Cups to me is about letting go. It's about walking away, right? But this is one of those cards. Everybody reads different. Different readers have their own translation, and a lot of people will see it as letting go. But one thing that I always remind people, or I like to share with people, is that the only reason she walks away is to return to where she was in the Two of Cups. She remembers who she was. She wants that feeling back. There were losses, there were pain, but let's get back there. And so there's no guarantees, there's no promises, there's no way of making sure that she can ever get back to that energy of the Two of Cups. Because for me, the Two of Cups is the honeymoon phase, right? And we all would love to stay in the honeymoon phase, but we cannot stay there. We must, our love must mature. And because it matures, it has to go through stages. It has to go through the energy of loss, and that sort of thing. But when she really makes the decision, and making the decision, this is what I want, this is who I am. Okay, sometimes you have to leave and go on a new journey in order to get back and to remember. And I love that you said remember, because when I had Jerry Yusko on my show, and somebody was talking about it was an evolution. And so they said it was the evolution in the comments. And I said, it's an evolution. And Jerry Yusko said, it's an evolution. And then Jerry said, no, it's not an evolution. It's a return. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that was so beautiful. And it's what you were talking about earlier, is returning, remembering, because
Yeah.
we've already been there. So yes, but sometimes you have to let go in order to get back to where you were in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Surrender is very much misunderstood in spiritual circles. Surrender is one of the most powerful things you can do,
Mhm.
and it is usually about surrendering egoic things that we've built up that are in the way of us having a great enlightenment.
Mhm.
So it's not a weakness. It's not giving up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, yes,
It's
no,
a superpower for sure.
yes. And so the next card that I have for you is the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups. And we talked about that a little bit earlier, is the Ace of Cups, which is about self-love, truly falling in love with yourself. And I can see you have done a lot of hard work. You have done the work, not to say anybody is complete or finished, but I can see the progress that you made. And
Thank
all
you.
of that really stems strictly from self-love. I mean, that's the beginning, because before you can have the tribe and the community and go out on the dates and meet new people, you truly have to love yourself, right? But I love
Right.
aces because aces are always new beginnings. And with these new beginnings, they have infinite possibilities. Infinite. It could, this, you, again, we talked about the ace, the Eight of Cups going back to the Two of Cups, when honestly, it doesn't go back to the Two of Cups. It goes back to the Ace of Cups. It goes back to the beginning and truly just loving yourself in order to be able to move forward. Because the next card that I have for you is the Four of Swords.
Hmm.
The Four of Swords to me is about healing. It's about inaction. It's about staying until you're ready to make the next move. Swords, again, being thoughts, being decisions, right? And so often we just want to act, we want to move, we want to do, we want to go, but we're not really sure as to what that next move is. And so
Sure.
for the whenever I see the Four of Swords, it reminds me of the expression that they say Oprah Winfrey said. And she said, when most people don't know what to do, they have to do something. She said, I don't do anything until I know what to do. So this to me is about being quiet, being still. For me, this is the Peace Be Still card. And
Yes.
again, the cards are not only about that particular card, but the surrounding cards and the cards that come before it and the cards that come after it. And the Four of Swords follows the Three of Swords. So the Three of Swords to me is about sorrow. It's about loss. It's about there was some hurt. There was some pain. There were some things that you went through. And so
Sure.
often when we go through different challenges, we just want to get up and on to the next, heal, heal, be still. Okay. The next card I have for you is the Ten of Cups, which is my happily ever after card. I told you I saw some love when I was doing the shuffling.
I can live happily ever after with myself. That's just fine.
You know, because like attracts like, and whatever you are seeking is also seeking you. So whatever
Hmm.
frequency you're resonating on, and Bashar talks about that a lot too, is the
Yeah.
frequencies that we're on. I watched one of his yesterday when he talked about if it hasn't come, is that we're holding on to something, or we have some type of blockage that we're not releasing in order for what we're seeking to actually come to us. So Ten of Cups is the completion of this journey, but 1 and 0 with numerology is still a one. It's the beginning. It's a new phase, a new step on this journey, right?
Yeah.
Of letting go and this journey of self-love, right? So
Yep.
the next card that you have is the Hierophant. And the Hierophant to me is about spiritual truths, and it reminds me of what we were talking about earlier. Like, how do you know, Scott? How do you know? The Hierophant knows, the King of Swords knows, and they know that they know. And everybody, again, with the Five of Swords may not agree with it. They may not like it, but the Hierophant has to speak his truth. He has to stand in his truth. He has to stand in his power, no matter how he was raised, no matter what he was taught, no matter what all the other people around him believe. This is who he is. So I did 10 cards for you, Scott. I always start with the position as far as the issue, because I think of it like a sandwich. You got the two sides of the bread, everything else is just in the middle. So then I always give the 10th card at the end of the day, the final outcome on your current path, where you are. This is what you need to know. And that's the Ace of Swords. the Ace of Swords. So you got two aces. Those are new beginnings. The Ace of Swords to me is always truth. And for me, truth is a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes the truth hurts. Speaking the truth hurts, but the truth shall set you free. So whenever I see that this is a message for me to stand in your full power. The Hierophant is a message to stand in your full power. Speak your truth. Speak your word. Again, back to the King of Swords, just remember that everybody can't see it the way you see it. And so this is when we add the compassion. This is when we add the empathy and sharing our truth, right?
Okay.
So how does that resonate with you?
Beautifully. Thank you. I loved it
You're
all.
welcome. You're welcome. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't. That was great.
Okay. Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Now we are coming down to the last few seconds of the show, and what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
You have love running through you like a stream, like a powerful river, actually. Just tap into it and let it flow in the way that it wants to. Be an instrument of God's peace, and you will be rewarded 1,000 times. You will feel that you're doing the right thing. You'll never have to ask, what should I be doing? What should I do? When you follow your heart. And I recommend meditation to practice getting in touch with it and let the love come. And it will guide you what to do. You don't need to learn from anybody. Learn from yourself. You already have the greatest teacher. Your inner guru is inside of you, waiting for you to listen. Much love to everybody out there.
I love that, waiting for you to listen. I'm listening. I am listening right now. I'm listening to some of the conversations that we've had in the past, and I'm listening to those small, still voices that are leading me along my path. Scott, I
Beautiful.
want to thank you for being today's guest. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives. I definitely appreciate your support. And if you want to be sitting right there where Scott is and have your own reading, visit my website at readmelive.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.